Welcome to the MSL 411, a podcast designed to equip both aspiring and experienced MSLs with the resources they need to level up their career toolkit. The heart of this podcast is to take the same industry knowledge and advice that we share with our own candidates and make it available and accessible to anyone looking for answers. So if you have questions, you've come to the right place. We're here to give you the 411. And without further ado, let's dive right in. Hi there, and welcome back to MSL 411. We are on week 3 of our resume roadmap experience, which is our September deep dive into all things resume. We really wanted to give an intensive course on resume building and break it down section by section. And if you've joined us over our last 2 episodes, you've gotten some great information about the experience section. Today, we're going to be talking about the professional summary, that little paragraph up at the top that some people do a really great write-up on. Some people have a little short vague, and some people just don't have one at all. Is it important? Is it not? We're going to be talking about that today, the importance of it, and also what makes a really fantastic summary section. Ashley, give us the outline on what bits of information people should think about including in their professional summary. What points should they hit when they're writing that?
Yeah. Well, if I was to do a summary of, let's say 10 well-written resumes, this is probably what I would find as kind of a consistent theme throughout them. So number one, right out the gate, introduce yourself, any board certifications or specializations that you have, those pertaining to a particular therapeutic area as well, such as, board certified hematology, oncology pharmacist with 12 years of experience in such and such. So, hits those board certifications, right out the gate that they're specialists in this area. And then a summation of the years of their postgraduate experience is just kind of teeing you up right there, giving you a summary of what's to come in that job experience section. So start off with those 2 bullet points. I would also include, not in any particular order, but also include highlighting any authorship that you may have. Any publishing you may have done, especially if you are really well published in a particular therapeutic area. Maybe you're a PhD neuroscientist with over 10 publications in the area of neuroimmunology or whatever that may look like. So highlighting any authorship that you may have there, or maybe it's speaking accomplishments, if that's something that you've been a regularly invited speaker. I have some candidates that were speakers for pharmaceutical companies. That's something that you can throw in there too. That's a great place to highlight that information. Even if you do, include it later in the resume, it's great to have it right up there. Shows that you're a strong speaker. People like you and they want you back. And then highlighting any leadership or management experience, even if your aspiration is not, MSL leadership, let's say, the fact that you were chosen and promoted and asked to be a manager of people and a leader shows leadership skills. It's more about the skills rather than the job function, especially if maybe you were a director of a pharmacy, you had other pharmacists below you. It's not the same as MSL leadership, but it's about the qualities that you're demonstrating there, or teaching experience as well. If that's part of your background, maybe you teach a course at a pharmacy school or whatever that teaching experience may be. Again, that is not necessarily applicable to the job that you're applying for, but it again shows those skills. So I like to see that kind of stuff in the professional summary. A brief synopsis of key strengths or personality factors, which we'll give you some good examples later. And then speaking about your intent for your career, about your passion. Maybe you are very passionate about rare disease and so you use that passion to write an intent statement to kind of wrap up that professional summary. I think those are kind of the key 5 or 6 things that I like to see in that professional summary.
Like your highlight reel, or like we tell people, your elevator pitch.
Yes.
It's just kind of hitting the high notes.
Yeah.
Not 6 paragraphs worth, but just a little paragraph of here's why I'm fantastic and awesome and you want to hire me.
Yeah. We don't need half a page.
Yeah.
That's really what a well-written experience section is for. So please go back and watch those episodes if you haven't already. But just a quick, few sentences highlighting these things, I think will get you off to a great start and will make the hiring manager, talent acquisition person want to continue to read more.
Yes. It's the hook that gets them to want to dig deep into your resume. So I think that's great.
And it'll look different depending on what your background is. If you're a PharmD or PhD, or one of our lovely nurses that we work with. But PharmDs and PhDs, they kind of make up the greatest percentage of MSL educational background. So For the purposes of giving examples, we'll just kind of focus on these two backgrounds. And as far as practical examples, I had to pull some resumes from people I've actually helped land their first MSL role. And so we wanted to give you guys some examples. Linda, will you give some examples from the PharmD perspective of a really well-written professional summary, what it's hit on?
Yeah, so I have two examples, two different resumes here that we're going to go over. So this first person is a board certified hematology oncology pharmacist. They list that right out of the gate. So it tells you right at the very first few words, I am certified oncology, pharmacy. So I worked at the bedside with patients. I have that clinical background. It also talks about how many years of experience they have. So board certified hematology oncology pharmacist with over X amount of years of experience as a clinical pharmacy specialist in their therapeutic area, which they list as well, focused on patients with, and then it lists about 3 or 4 different disease states that patients that they've worked with have been diagnosed with. So that's sentence one, which I think there's more to come actually, but I think in the first sentence, they really answered so many different questions about, here's my certifications. I have worked for this many years in this setting with this disease state, and the patients that I've been most familiarized with in my career so far have been with these disease states. So it answers a lot of questions. They go on to talk about what they're passionate about. I'm passionate about improving the care for these patients, about dealing with patients that have these hematology oncology diagnoses and working on their treatment options. It goes on again to talk about some of their publications, like you were just talking about, that they've written several peer-reviewed publications in journals, and they've been a national presenter at conferences. And so it really kind of speaks to how they have been able to perform away from the patient bedside, basically. They have that clinical experience, but also they're no stranger to the presenting aspect as well. So they know the jargon that the KOLs are going to want to hear. They speak that language, but also they're experienced at taking data and breaking it down and then presenting it in a cohesive manner. So I think just that first paragraph answers a lot. They have a short second paragraph about where they did their residency, and it happens to be for this person at a nationally recognized, very important site. Top institution. So I think any hiring manager in the oncology space is going to see that, and it's going to just jump out with big shining letters at them and say, oh, well, this person did their residency there. They probably still have some connections that they could call on. So in just a quick little mention of where they did their residency after, like, here's all my great experience. Oh, and by the way, I've worked here. I have connections. It's a maybe a tough place to get into for some folks, but I already have the key to get in the door. So I think that they've done a really great job of summarizing in just 4 sentences what is going to make them a great addition to this hiring manager's team. And so that is the first example I wanted to give. I have a second one here, a little bit longer, but no less well written. This person is a board certified clinical oncology pharmacist. And again, she mentions how many years she's been in industry, which is almost 15. So, I mean, she's no stranger to clinical pharmacy, and that she's worked at several leading hospitals across the United States. And she kind of mentions those. So again, it kind of lets the hiring manager know where they have those connections, where they might be able to call on those connections to get their foot in the door for this team. So she goes on to talk about some of the responsibilities she had in her past roles, that she was a primary contact for prioritizing oncology protocol build, for standardization and content authorization, and that she trained hospital staff on a few different key things. And so again, it kind of shows the hiring manager some of the different responsibilities she's had. She's been in that training role before. She is familiar with working with nursing staff, with hospital staff in a teaching position. And so she might be able to bring that same value to their team. Talks about some of the things that she was able to teach to those staff members, talks about some of the protocols that she was able to build, some of the regimens that she was able to work on, some of the procedures that she was involved with, and also mentions, just as a little addition here, that she was an oncology preceptor. So she has that teaching experience where she did lectures and provided continuing education. She worked as an instructor at a major university that's probably a key institution as well in this geography that she lives in. So she's got a lot of great experience. And she actually, just at the last sentence here, she mentions some places that she's worked, some different sites that she's worked, infusion pharmacies, transplant centers. She's worked with solid and liquid tumors. She's worked with bone marrow transplant patients. And so she lists a few different areas of where she is experienced, where she's familiar, and, again, maybe some of those things that might affect the team that she's applying for, that might bring some value. She might know some of that language better than somebody who's never worked with bone marrow transplant patients, or worked with those physicians. And so she might just have a little bit of an edge there. So, and she mentioned that it sounds like a lot of information. It sounds like she wrote like 3 or 4 paragraphs, but really it's just like 5 or 6 sentences. She just packed a punch in each and every sentence. Each sentence, none of it's vague. Each sentence is just packed from beginning to end with information about her. And I really like that. So she doesn't talk about her passions or anything like that, but she's got so much other information that she wanted to convey that I think it's okay. It just really talks about her career and her accomplishments versus the last.
It's almost like a short. It's like if she were to take her cover letter and just shorten it to give like a really quick snippet. So I really like that one.
Yeah, I do too. And I thought that was just a really great example. And of course, again, these were from pharmacists. They have more of the clinical background. I know you have some resumes that you pulled from PhDs, a little bit different.
Yes. So the one I have in front of me here, I thought they focus a little bit more on like the ethos and what they're trying to do, what they're passionate about. So I wanted to share this one here. They refer to themselves as a highly effective communicator with a track record of building professional collaborations with their over 10 years of research and education experience in the area of neurology. And then they list some of the disease states that they have worked in. So right out the gate, I know that they are a effective communicator, that they want you to look at their track record and want you to ask them about them. She's highlighting the fact that collaborations is an area that she's strong in. She's great at building them. She summarizes her 10 years of research and education experience. And then when you go into her resume and really look closer, you see that some of the education experience was actually done on more of a volunteer basis. So it was really more of a matter of passion for her than her being an educator in a kind of official capacity. So she has both that research and that education experience, but also a nugget of I'm passionate about this. I do this because I care. And then she gives you her therapeutic focus, really highlighting the fact that I have been entrenched in the neuro community in this patient population for 10 years. So I really like that. She has a kind of more bullet pointed kind of key experiences section, which is meant to kind of summarize her professional experience. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this as a separate section from your professional experience. I would kind of combine the two. But some of the things that she had listed that I liked was she talked about the clinical trials work that she had supported, that she was a regular presenter in a weekly journal club, and led discussions in her therapeutic area. So these are some of the things outside of just her role that she had taken initiative in. It shows that she is just kind of going above and beyond what is expected for somebody in her job title. And then she mentions that she analyzed and edited a number of scientific articles and a little bit on her peer-reviewed research. And so I think that some of these bullets maybe belong more in the experience section that she has listed here. But if you wanted to just quickly touch on them in the professional summary, I think those are all great things to include there. She did a great job of summarizing the details of her, what she's published, her speaking accomplishments, any kind of like leadership experience that she had as far as in her community with the journal club. And she really tells you a lot about what she is passionate in. It's very clear that this person is dedicated to her field. And you can see what her passion is. Doesn't necessarily have an intent statement, but because she communicates her passion so clearly, I think it's pretty easy to figure out the answer to that. And it tells you a little bit about her. She's identifying herself as a strong communicator. So with that being a core to the MSL role, these are the kind of hot buttons that you want to see. And in a future episode, we're going to talk more about like those skills that the applicant tracking systems are really looking for in the resume. And I think this resume and this professional summary is written in a way that would be picking up a lot of these kind of keywords. And
I think that makes a great argument against the very vague pharmacist in this area looking for a position in this, and that, because those ATS systems or the live person on the end are looking for those keywords. So it just all goes to support why you want to have a great professional summary. Because it is where you lay out the keywords. It's not the place for being generic. It's the place for saying, here's what I bring to the table. Now read more.
Yes. Please keep reading.
Yes.
So the next resume that I have here, this is somebody who is a PhD, but worked on a lot of academic research, clinical trials. And so they have their resume written in a bit more of a CV style as far as the formatting, but have a lot of detail within the position. So it's kind of a combo CV resume, but neglected to include a professional summary. And so what I did was as I was looking through their bullet points of their experience, looked and was identifying, okay, if I was this person, what sorts of things would I want to include in the professional summary? And some of those things would be, they talk about establishing and maintaining relationships, and attending or via professional conferences, patient advocacy, and support groups. Those are all great things to include in the professional summary, because you're talking about, and giving examples of the community relationships that you have, talking a little bit about what you've done out there in the field, and maybe distinguishing yourself from other people within your organization who are not going and doing those things, or not participating in those conferences. You're really demonstrating that you are the kind of face of your group, face of your department in that public setting. So I like the inclusion of that. I like how they named specifically that they are passionate about patient advocacy. They talk a little bit in here about being the main point of contact for study sponsors and during the clinical trial startup process. And so it highlights, again, that experience that they have in the clinical trial space, but also showing that they were a leader. They were the main point of contact. Those, I think, can be rewritten in more of a vague way to show that you had taken on a leadership position, that you were the point of contact. I would even include, experienced study coordinator for X number of clinical trials in that professional summary. And so it's kind of summarizing the bullet points to make that professional summary really have that impact statement and show what they had done in summary. So just a couple of quick examples of things that you can repurpose from the experience section to have a great professional summary that really packs a punch and encourages your hiring manager to want to read more. So that's all we have for you today. If you would like to, please text us. The link is in the show notes. We'd love to hear from you guys if you want an episode or examples of other educational backgrounds. We focus on PharmDs and PhDs primarily, but if there are other ones that you would like us to talk about, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to share the link, let your friends know, and of course, connect with us on LinkedIn. And if you want more information on today's topic, please feel free to reach out. Be sure to check back soon as we continue to explore the topics that matter most to you in medical affairs.